Welcome to the Newsome MMA podcast, partnered with Concussion Pro 1, the world's first dedicated concussion supplement. I'm your host, as always, with your co-host John, and we're nearly over the long break without a UFC fight card, which means that we're back once again to break down UFC on ESPN Plus 1, going down on Saturday night in Brooklyn, New York. John, how you doing tonight, bro?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. I'm very glad to be back. It feels like one hell of a long break since we were last doing this, and we got to see some fights on a Saturday night. So I'm excited for it, man.
Yeah, we can't win, can we? When there's 15 in a row, we're
Very true.
that there's too many. But then when there's a long break, we're moaning that there's not enough. So,
Very true.
but yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for UFC to be back. First of all, I just want to mention the premium bets from Newsome MMA. We have an amazing offer right now for new members. For anybody that purchases the silver membership, which is the 6 months term throughout January, you'll receive 3 months absolutely free, which will see you through till September. Right now, it's a great time to jump on board as my form is on point and there's a 6 fight card winning streak for over 23 units of profit and a 72% return on investment too. To find out more information on these offers, you can contact me on any of my social channels or you can email adam@newsomemma.co.uk. So, the first event of 2019. Let's break down UFC Brooklyn from bottom to top, and in the first fight of the night, we have a short notice fight and one that's been changed numerous times. We've got Rencountre versus Kyle Stewart. So, John, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, like you say, this card has taken a few hits over the last week. We've seen a couple of guys come in and then get removed, and then I think it was they were talking about Grant coming in for this fight, but that couldn't happen. But I'm glad they managed to keep the fight on the card. I'll be honest with you, it was changed at such short notice. I haven't seen a lot of Stewart. Seen some clips of him. Be interesting to see how he fares in his UFC debut. Obviously, he spent a lot of his time over at LFA, who we all know were a good feeder promotion for the UFC. He's only got one loss on his record. He has also competed Dana White's Contender Series, obviously picking up the win second round. I think his opponent got injured in that fight, which obviously led to the TKO victory. But yeah, from what I've seen, obviously we've seen Chance Rencountre in the UFC cage before, losing that decision against Belal Muhammad. I'm going with Rencountre in this one. I just think he's the better all-round fighter. He's had that octagon experience before. Obviously, we spoke about this numerous times. You never know. Sometimes it works in their favour, coming in on short notice, nothing to lose. But sometimes under those bright lights of the octagon, we see people freeze on their debut. And yeah, I just think following, I know Muhammad got that quite comfortable decision victory in Rencountre's last outing in the octagon. But just from what I've seen from that fight and what I've seen, like I said, I've seen very little of Karl Stewart. I've only seen some highlight clips, but I think Rencountre will have enough to get the win in this one.
Yeah, it's a good fight because, you know, it is short notice for Kyle Stewart, but Kyle Stewart had a fight coming up on February 1st.
Yes, he did, yeah, over LFA
with Jared Gooden. So
yeah,
he has obviously been in a camp. He has been training. We know he's going to be in shape. But like you say, you know, the octagon experience for Rencountre for me is a big thing in this fight because it's short notice as well. I don't normally put too much stock in that, but like you say, whether you're in a training camp for another fight or not, I just feel that when it's on it's less than a week notice, man. So it's less than a week's notice, and like I say, your octagon debut, there's always going to be some red flags for sure. Now, Kyle Stewart is an explosive fighter. He tends to work a lot with his striking, so he'll throw the jabs out, he'll throw strikes out, but everything seems to revolve around launching that right hand, almost in a sense of like what Dan Henderson used to do. Everything that he did was good, but everything also revolved around that one shot, and I almost feel that Kyle Stewart's got that sort of style. He has got a sneaky good ground game off his back. We've seen him throw up arm bars and submissions from the bottom as well. So he isn't just a striker. He is well-rounded. But I just feel with Chance Rencountre, yes, you know, it wasn't a great performance against Belal Muhammad, but Belal's a hard fighter
Yeah.
to fight, especially when it's your UFC debut as well. You know, that was a tough opening fight for Rencountre for sure. But he's 6'2" and he's just a tall, rangy, awkward fighter to fight. And even Belal Muhammad didn't look good against him. You know, you could argue maybe Belal wasn't training for that type of opponent, or maybe Belal had an off night. But I just think Rencountre's style's just going to almost be really, really tricky to look good against. I think he's also well-rounded as well. He's decent on the feet. He can take it to the mat. Obviously, we didn't see that against Belal because of that, just the gap in skill. I think Chance Rencountre's going to get the job done here. I'm not exactly sure how. I don't know if he puts Stewart away. I would probably say a finish if I knew Stewart wasn't already in a fight camp, potentially, you know, with gas tanks emptying and cardio maybe not being there. But I know he's been training. I know he's been in a fight camp, so I'm sure he's going to be able to go 3 rounds, you know, without too many issues. So I've got Chance Rencountre, and I'm going to take him to win via decision. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got a great fight here. You know, aforementioned Belal Muhammad versus Geoff Neal. So, John, I'm interested to who you've got in this one.
Yeah, this is a great fight, and I think this is going to be action from the first bell. I'm a really big fan of Belal Muhammad, and when this fight got announced, my initial thoughts were Belal Muhammad's going to win this. He's tough as nails. He's hard to put away. He's on a 4-fight win streak, of course. Chance Encounters we just spoke about, Tim Means, Jordan Mean, and Randy Brown. None of those guys are particularly easy fights. When you look at his losses, he's only got 2 losses on his record against Vicente Luque and Alan Joban, who again both real tough guys. Yeah, my initial thoughts were with Belal Muhammad, but then I watched back the Geoff Neal fight against Camacho. Geoff Neal, I might add, he's also on a 4-fight win streak. But yeah, I look back at that Frank Camacho fight, and Camacho's similar sort of not a similar fighter as such to Muhammad, but he's very hard to put away like Belal Muhammad is, and Neal just lit him up. He was lightning quick. I was really impressed with his range and his distance. He was closing distance where he needed to, super quick, and then out of range. He was lightning quick. Those 1-2s were lightning fast. That obviously coming out in that southpaw stance, that left hand straight down the pipe was catching Camacho over and over again, and then eventually he rattled his brain with that head kick early in the second round to get the victory. And having watched that back, it made me change my opinion. I am going to go with Geoff Neal in this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ended similar to how the Camacho fight did. I know I just mentioned how tough Muhammad is. He has been put away, as we saw in the Luque fight, albeit he is very tough to put away. But yeah, going on that last Geoff Neal performance, I just can't look past him, and I think he'll get another finish as well.
Yeah, I like Neal a lot in this spot as well. He's a really solid all-round fighter. You know, his striking is crazy good. A lot of the points you've just mentioned, I'm going to echo as well. So he's fast, he's accurate, he's powerful. He throws in combinations, which is exactly what you need from a striker. Sometimes you'll get a fighter that has got all this power, but he'll look for the one shot, or maybe put a 1-2 together. But Neal really does put combinations together as well as throwing with power. The key thing is here for Neal is he can strike well moving forwards and backwards, and I feel this is going to be key, because at the beginning of the fight, I think maybe for the first round, maybe for the first half of the fight, I think it's going to be Neal that's pushing. He's going to be the aggressor. Eventually he will slow. I don't think he has cardio issues. We saw in the fight against Camacho that at one point in the second round he just unloaded everything. Power, speed, volume. You can tell he put everything into Camacho and he didn't finish him. He stepped back and you could see that look on his face, like, what the fuck have I got to do to put this guy away? And I think in that moment, 9 out of 10 fighters would have crumbled with just that gas just being emptied. But Neal didn't. He went out there and still knocked him out. So I don't think he's got cardio issues, but I do think that if he doesn't put Belal away, he will naturally slow down towards the latter end of the fight. that's when Belal's going to come forward. So Neal has that forward pressure. He's great at striking forward, but at the later parts of the round, he's going to need to strike backwards as well. And I don't think he has a problem with that. I think when Belal comes in, Neal's got a great counter striking game. He's like I've already mentioned, he's crisp. He'll throw them quickly, a quick 1-2. You've already mentioned the southpaw stance against the orthodox stance of Belal, so that straight left down the pipe's gonna be hitting Belal as well. So that being able to strike forwards and backwards is really advantageous in MMA. He's got good movement, as you mentioned, the distance management. He gets just outside of range when he needs to, when his opponent's striking. Then he'll go back in. And he's big for the division as well. He's fought at middleweight before. I think it was the Dana White's Contender Series where he fought at middleweight. And it'll allow him to be bully and be aggressive when his opponent ties up with him. And this is where Belal's game's at, because Belal is a grinder. When he can't outstrike somebody, when he's struggling with movement or if he's getting hit, he'll go to his grinding game. You saw that a little bit with Tim Means. And he'll pin you up against the cage. He'll try and look for opportunistic takedowns. I don't think his topside grappling's that great where he can keep a fighter down for minutes on end. I definitely don't think he can keep Neal down if he does take him down, which again I doubt as well. But I don't think Neal's the type of striker to get grinded on by another fighter. I think that if Belal tries that with him, I think Neal will shrug him off. I think he'll exit out against the cage if his back's against it, and then just go again from there. And I almost think that when Belal feels that initial power from Neal, he's going to be very hesitant and very cautious. Almost like I talk about with the wrestlers when they hit that first takedown. They're sort of scared of, well, not scared, but sort of cautious of moving in case that takedown happens again. I think the same in some instances with striking, and I think it here as well. I think if Belal gets hit hard early on, coming in, I think he's going to really be starting to be cautious and evaluate and overthink inside the cage, and that's obviously where things can really start going wrong. I also heard that Geoff Neal's, for the first time in his career, has just got a strength and conditioning coach. He's recognised that Belal Muhammad is that sort of fighter. A fighter, you know, he was talking about how he comes on late. He wins a lot of his fights because the first round's quite close, so Belal might lose the first round, but then his opponents will slow and Belal comes on. This is all stuff that Neal was saying. So to me, it sounds like Neal's really switched on, really focused. And I agree with you. I think he's going to knock him out as well. I'm not sure whether it's going to be the first round. It could be a bit of a feeling out process for both of them, because Neal does acknowledge that Belal is a good fighter, the best fighter that he's ever fought. Yeah. So I'm not sure whether there's a feeling out process, but I just think regardless, for Belal to get his game going, he's got to close the distance. He's got to be the one that gets close to Neal. And I just think when he comes in, we saw that with Camacho. When Camacho came in, he just got hit. He just got countered with these crisp, sharp, accurate shots. You can argue that Camacho's head movement and his overall movement coming forward wasn't spectacular, but I think Neal's that fast and that accurate. I think even if his head movement and his general movement was great, he would have still got a hit as well. So I like Geoff Neal in this fight, and I think he's going to get it done by knockout. So in your next fight of the night, we've got Dennis Bermudez making his lightweight debut versus T. Edwards. So John, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's interesting to see how Dennis Bermudez fares moving up a weight class. He's only 5'6", so obviously he's going to be giving up height advantage to most his opponents. Saying that T. Edwards is only 5'8", so I'm reading. So on this occasion, not massively, but obviously if he continues in the UFC after this fight and he continues at lightweight, you can pretty much guarantee he's going to be coming up against a lot of fighters that are taller than him. It'll be interesting to see again whether the weight cut down to featherweight was depleting him. I mean, he's lost his last 3 fights via split decision. Has that cut taken a bit out of him where he just can't get over the line in those fights? It'll be interesting to see. I thought it was interesting also to see that he's lost 4 in the bounce. I mean, when we spoke about his fight with Rick Glenn that he lost back in July. we said that if he loses this one, he's pretty much done. I think it's over for him in the UFC. But he's been given another opportunity. Obviously, we saw this week that Jason Knight, going off topic slightly, Jason Knight's been released from the UFC. He was also on 4 losses, so it's quite interesting to see how they decide who they keep, who's on 4 losses, and who they get rid of, because Jason Knight was a fan favourite as well. But like I said, that's going off topic slightly. T. Edwards, obviously we saw him in his last fight against Don Madge. I think he took Don Madge lightly. Before that fight, he just said he's a plodding Thai boxer, I think were his words, something along those lines. And Don Madge came out, rocked him early. Edwards did get that takedown, but Madge was threatening constantly off his back, throwing up arm bars, triangles. Then when they did separate, Madge was hurting him again, and then very early in the second round, he caught him with a nice combination. And when Edwards was trying to circle off the cage, Madge just landed that huge head kick that put him away. But like I say, I think he took that fight. He took Don Madge too lightly in that. You could see kind of walked in there with that air of invincibility. So it'd be interesting to see if that loss against Madge humbled him slightly, and he just focusing now purely on getting the win, getting his first win in the UFC. It's interesting to note as well that Edwards is a very good wrestler, but of course we know Bermudez, I think he's NCAA D1 wrestler as well. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, are they going to counteract each other in that aspect, and then it'll turn into more of a stand-up war. And if it turns into a stand-up war, I favour T. Edwards in that, because I think he's stronger. Obviously, he's the more natural lightweight. He throws with intent. We saw that in the match fight. He did. They did have a couple of flurries, and Edwards threw everything with all he's got, and he was quick, he was sharp, but Madge just was sharper on the night and quicker to the punch. I do think though that Bermudez is going to win this fight. I think he knows that it's must win. It's do or die.
You do this all the time, man. Like
I know you win.
You're going to go one way and then just pick the other.
I like to lure people in and then throw in that curveball. But yeah, I do. I could just see Bermudez getting the win here. I mean, I think not cutting down to featherweight will help. I think he'll be stronger. I think, like I say, his cardio will withhold better. And I do think he'll be able to take Edwards down more so than Edwards will be able to take Bermudez down. I know that sounds a bit controversial, bearing in mind that Bermudez is coming up in weight and Edwards is the stronger looking, more natural lightweight. But I just think Bermudez ring craft and how long he's been in the game. I think his MMA wrestling will help him out, and he'll be able to get takedowns. And I think he's going to come out of this with the decision win. Like I said, he's lost his last 3 fights via very close split decisions, and I think he's going to get a decision in his favour in this one and break that 4-fight skid.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think Edwards took Don Madge lightly. I just think it was more of the fact that there just wasn't enough footage out there of Don Madge. Like, even from a gambling perspective, I tried to run the tape on the fight. I know somebody that used to train with Don Madge a few years ago. They didn't have any footage of him either. Like, I just couldn't. You just couldn't find too much of the guy. Well, recently anyway, and I just think that was partly one of the issues with Edwards. Like, he didn't really know what to expect, and then when Madge came out like a raging bull and completely put it on him, stunned him, hurt him multiple times. I just think that Edwards was just a bit confused in there. Now, moving on to Dennis Bermudez, he's lost, like you've said, he's lost 4 on the bounce. The first of that 4 was the Korean Zombie, which I actually think Bermudez was doing really well in that fight up until he tried blocking an uppercut with his chin. And then the Darren Elkins fight, I think he did lose. That was a split decision. And just something to mention, these next 3 are all split decision losses, so it's really, really unfortunate for him. Darren Elkins, like I've just said, I think he lost. Andre Fili, bear in mind I bet Andre Fili in that fight. I think Bermudez beat Fili. I think that decision was off. And the Rick Glenn fight, I think he probably beat Rick Glenn as well. That was a bit more of a case of, are you scoring the stacking of takedowns against the striking of Rick Glenn? I always favour the takedown, so that's why I'm going with that opinion. And obviously the judges had the same opinion on the night as well. So I just think Bermudez has been really, really unfortunate. And one of the things that Bermudez had problems with earlier in his career is his chin. Now, he was never getting finished left, right, and centre. Obviously, he got knocked out by Korean Zombie, but he was never the type of fighter that would just get finished in a fight. But he was always the type of fighter that when you hit, you could see him wobble or you'll drop him. His recovery, by the way, is superb. This is one other thing to mention, because when he gets dropped, he bounces right back up like it never happened. So that was always the issue for me. However, when you look back in his recent fights, he has fought people that hit reasonably hard. Rick Glenn's got a fair few knockouts on his record. So's Andre Fili as well. He's not getting rocked and wobbled and dropped as much anymore. Like I said, apart from the Korean Zombie. But you look back at that knockout and everything was perfect. His head was coming down. Korean Zombie's uppercut was coming up. You know, when you put 2 and 2 together, you get 4. And I just feel that with Dennis Bermudez moving up to lightweight as well, like you mentioned, the cardio is going to be better. He's going to be healthier. That chin will be better as well because he'll be more hydrated. So I don't think the chin problems are going to be there, and I think they would have to be there for T. Edwards to win this fight. I think the wrestling is going to counteract itself. I don't think either of them are going to have much success in the wrestling, or if one of them does get the other one down in grappling on the floor and spending a lot of time in top control. And then it's going to come to the striking now. T. Edwards has got power. He's got power in that straight right, and that to me tends to be his biggest weapon, and he doesn't have much else around that in respect to volume and combinations. He just tends to look for that burst and that one shot to put somebody out, and if it does connect, he's got serious power. Now, Bermudez has got a volume in the first round specifically. He's got really good volume in every single first round, and then he does slow, and that volume does start to digress a little bit as the fight goes on. And you know, you can respect that when you're putting in a lot of work. The thing is, with T. Edwards, he's only ever been into round 3 once, and he lost via decision, and this is a concern for me. I think that if Bermudez puts a lot of volume on him early on, I think that Edwards is just going to find himself falling behind on the scorecards. And if he doesn't put Bermudez away in this fight, I think he's just going to get outworked and out-volumed. And then if T. Edwards does start getting tired, you will see the takedowns come in late second and third round as well, just to solidify that decision win for Bermudez. I don't think this is going to go to a split. I think Bermudez is going to win it unanimously. So, yeah, I've got Dennis Bermudez winning it via decision. Now, in your next fight of the night, you've got another short notice fight. It was supposed to be Cory Sandhagen versus John Lineker. I had a bet on Cory Sandhagen in that fight. I'm really gutted that John Lineker had to pull out, but I hope he's good. I hope he recovers quickly. I hope we get to see him back in the cage, because he is a fan favourite for sure.
For sure,
now,
man.
We have Mario Bautista against Cory Sandhagen. So, John, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's a real shame that the Lineker fight didn't come to fruition, because that would have been one hell of a fight. I think I was leaning towards Sandhagen in that fight as well. But hopefully, if Sandhagen gets the win here, we'll see that fight rebooked, maybe for the Brazil card a bit later on in the year. But I'll be honest again with the short notice opponent, Mario Bautista. I haven't really seen too much of him. I've seen a bit of footage, but all my time was spent pretty much watching Cory Sandhagen and trying to work out how he escaped that armbar against Yuri Alcantara. Sure. He's got those Dan Hardy rubber arms, I think, because that was just absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, we've seen that was his second fight in the UFC. I mentioned when we spoke in the build up to that fight, I mentioned how I really like the looks of him in his UFC debut against Austin Arnett. Finished it with that body shot. I like his combinations. He will mix up to the head and the body, and we saw that in the Arnett victory. And then Alcantara, he just showed heart, and he showed that he he's really, really tough to put away. And 9 times out of 10, any other opponent, either they're tapping or their arms breaking in the situation he was in. But he gritted it out, and then he was solid on top. He maintained top control against the dangerous guy on the ground, and he just smashed his face in basically for the best part of half a round in round one, and then the remainder of the second round, and got the win. And I think Sandhagen can go quite a long way in the division. He's tall and he's rangy. He's very tall for bantamweight. I think he's about 5'11". Got a long reach as well. I like his striking. Like I mentioned, I like how he mixes it up. Goes to the body. He's hard to predict. His combinations don't get predictable. Like I just mentioned again, he's got good top control. We saw that in the last fight. He was heavy on top for, like I say, the best part of the half a round in the first round, and then for the minute or so that the second round lasted, and he was hammering some heavy ground and pound for a good portion of time in that fight. I mean, you don't see many fighters with the same kind of output on the ground that we saw in that fight without tiring. I mean, Khabib is one that comes to mind straight away. He can smash your face in and maul you on the ground for, it seems like, as long as he wants to. But Sandhagen was really putting on a pace on the ground after he's got out of an extremely dangerous situation as well. So there's obviously going to be an adrenaline dump after that, and you've been fighting off the submission for, well, he got rocked as well. The whole thing came about because he got rocked in the first 15 seconds when they were standing. So he's got rocked. He's nearly got finished on the ground. He's escaped a submission, which must have done some kind of damage to him because it's just not natural for your arm to bend in the way that his was. And then he just came out of it, so nothing had happened, put on a relentless pace on the ground and finished Alcantara impressively. So yeah, I just can't look past Sandhagen in this fight, and I think he's going to get another finish. I think he's going to make it 3 out of 3. Like I say, it's hard for me to completely judge against Mario Bautista because I haven't seen a great deal of him. I think he's 6-0 so far. He hasn't lost a fight as a professional. His last fight, which was back in December, was the only fight that has gone to a decision in his career. Again, he's another guy that's fought in LFA before, so we know he's coming from a solid base and a solid background. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a bit too much too soon for him. Stepping up on his debut against a tough opponent in Sandhagen, and I see Sandhagen getting the victory. I think he'll get another finish. Like I said, I think first round feeling out process. Then Bautista short notice fight may start to tire a little bit. I know he did have another fight coming up as well next month, but whether it's just come a bit too soon for him, I don't know. But yeah, I expect Sandhagen to start pushing the pace in the second round and then get a finish late second, early third.
Yeah, but Batista's a fighter that likes to come forward. He's got a range of attacks, so he'll use his punches and he'll use his kicks. He tends to really like kicking as well. He comes in from different angles, and like I say, he just likes to put the pressure on and likes to be the aggressor. The thing is with Sandhagen, so does he. So if these two meet in the middle, someone's going to be backing up. I don't think that's going to be Sandhagen backing up in this fight. I think in the Lineker fight, he would have been the one backing up. He would have been the one that's had to exit out and create his angles and create space, but I think he can throw down in this fight. I think if Bautista does want to meet him in the middle, I think it's going to be a crazy fight. It's going to be wild. We know Sandhagen's tough. We know he's not easy to put out. We don't know really too much about Bautista in that respect. You know, what his toughness like. Has he got quit in him? We don't know these sort of things. I would imagine not being a 25-year-old 6-0 pro. I'd imagine that he is tough and he will do everything that he can to stay in the fight and get the wins, but I do think it is going to be first L time for Bautista in this fight. I don't see stylistically how he can overcome what Sandhagen's going to bring to him. Sandhagen's going to be bringing kicks. He's going to be bringing body shots. He's going to be bringing elbows to the head. You know, he can mix in wrestling if he needs to as well. And then he's got a good top game. He's got good scrambles. I really love Sandhagen. I think he's a guy that's got a lot of tools. And the biggest thing for me in regards to Sandhagen is how difficult it is for fighters to fight him, because he's awkward, he's unique, he comes in from crazy angles. He almost reminds me a lot of Dominic Cruz, minus the slightly heavy wrestling that obviously Cruz brought to the cage. But he reminds me a lot of Cruz in the way he moves and just how unorthodox he is inside the cage. I don't think Bautista's going to be the guy to give him a loss in the UFC. Unfortunately, I think it is going to be first L time for Bautista, and I do think Cory Sandhagen's going to finish him as well. I think it's going to be the first round, because I see Bautista meeting him in the middle. And the horrible thing for Bautista is if he does meet him in the middle and feels that, you know, what Sandhagen's going to bring, and then backs off, that's going to push Sandhagen forward, and you're just going to see an array of volume. The dude's got over 9 strikes per minute, which is just, compare that to other fighter stats in the UFC. It's ridiculous. It's so high. Like I say, I'm not seeing too much of a path to victory for Bautista. Obviously, there's the puncher's chance. Obviously, you know, he might step up and, you know, it might be one of those performances where he really embraces the opportunity and the arena and just being under the brightest lights of the sport, and just comes out and really puts on a great performance. But man, I just don't see it. Not against Sandhagen. Sandhagen's just too good. So yeah, I've got Cory Sandhagen. I've got him winning via TKO. Now in the next fight tonight, and this is for me the most intriguing fight on the card, we've got Alonzo Menifield versus Vinicius Mamute. So John, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, this is like you say, this is a really interesting encounter, because Alonzo Menifield, from what we've seen of him so far, what I've seen of him, he's a beast. I mean, he's got power, he's got raw power. We saw that against Deshaun Boatwright in Dana White's Contender Series earlier last year, when we got that stoppage victory after 8 seconds. Maybe it was a slightly early stoppage. I know that Boatwright was complaining that it was an early stoppage at the time, and watching it back, he may have a slight. The dude
wasn't getting back up, man. Menifield just jumped on him.
Yeah, that was my next point. If he didn't think he was done, then after 8 seconds, after 15 seconds, he would have been done. So for me, it was a fair stoppage. And then prior to that, we've seen him in Dana White's Contender Series back in 2017, where he defeated Daniel Jolly. That was stopped by the doctors after the first round because of Jolly's eye being all busted up. So yeah, this guy's just got brute power and brute strength. Vinicius Mamute, I've only seen bits of him. He's another guy who came from the Brazilian series of Contender Series. This guy does his most dangerous work on the ground. He's got a lot of submission finishes on his record. We saw in that fight against John Allen, he got the victory via triangle choke in the second round. What was interesting that I thought in that fight, the first round, obviously Mamute was very clinch heavy, was pressing Allen against the fence and holding there and was working for that takedown. But when they separated, Allen had some success standing. He caught him with a few nice shots. One thing I did notice is that Mamute holds his hands very high. He leaves his body exposed. And Allen was ripping those body shots, which is something that I'm sure Menifield will have seen and will have taken note of. Mamute also got caught with a couple of crisp uppercuts. They didn't really seem to stun or rock him too much, but he was getting caught with them, and that's not a very clever way to play the game, to block punches with your face. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But when he did eventually get the fight to the ground, he He wore on Alan, and Alan was tired. He advanced position, took the mount. Then I think he got reversed, and he was on his back and threw up that triangle and locked it in and got the submission win. So obviously we're going to see Mamute try and get the fight to the ground, and we're going to see Menifield try and keep it standing and beat the brakes off him. But I think Menifield's going to get the win. The reason being is for what I just said. From what I've seen of Mamute, he kept that high guard. I don't think his head movement wasn't great in that Alan fight. He kept his hands high, left his body exposed, but he was still getting caught with shots despite his hands being high. And Menifield possesses power, a lot of power in those hands. And if he hasn't improved on that, the defensive side of things, I could see Menifield putting him away and getting a stoppage win.
Yeah, I totally get that side of things. And just one thing to mention straight off the bat is neither fighter has gone into the third round in their professional careers. Yeah. So, it's crazy that they're both finishers. I love this fight so much. I didn't know anything about Mamute before I started running the tape on him. And, let's start with Menifield because, like you said, you've already mentioned he's quick, he's powerful, he's accurate. He's almost like, a heavier version of Geoff Neal in a way with how he fights. Explosive as well. Is the new generation of MMA fighter, and he's one that is going to be coming forward. He's one that's going to be a star in the future, in my opinion. But you look over to the other side of Vinicius Mamute, and man, I'm telling you, I've said it time and time again, I love the wrestlers, I love the grapplers, I spot things, man. I spot little things as the grappling and how they're transitioning from position to position and the balance and the weight distribution. I spot all these types of small things, and I'm telling you right now, Mamute, in my opinion, is probably the best grappler I've ever seen at 205 pounds in the UFC. Admittedly, I could potentially be not thinking about somebody, so if you're listening to this now and you can think of a great grappler that you think may be better than Mamute, just drop it in the comments. Legit, I would just like to, I'd like other opinions because I just can't think of it. I'm telling you, what Mamute does on the ground is just unreal stuff. I just got instantly excited when I was watching his tape and the things that he was doing. Even if he does make a slight mistake, man, he's always in control. Like I say, that balance, that weight distribution between his transitions, he just holds position perfectly, and he pulls off some crazy stuff. Like he looks for the mounted triangles and things like that. Transitions them into arm bars and straight arm bars. Man, I'm telling you, what this dude does on the mat is incredible. The problem with Mamute, though, is what you've mentioned, is his striking, and his striking defense is really not on the level that it should be. But I think for Mamute, that's something that you can work on and fix in a shorter period of time. So, for example, if Mamute gets Menifield down to the mat, I don't care what Menifield's been doing in this training camp, he is not going to be at the level to be able to defend what Mamute is going to do to him on the mat. Whereas you flip it over, can Mamute in a training camp improve his striking defense drastically enough not to get hit by a power shot? I think so. I still think it's absolutely possible that Menifield comes out here and he knocks him out cold in round one, Like you've mentioned, Mamute holds his hands up to his chin, and he tucks his chin as well. It's almost to me like Mamute knows that that's where he's deficient, so he does everything he possibly. It's almost like he's robotic on the feet with his defense. And it's like he knows that that's where he's deficient, and he's just trying to block and cover everything just until he can close the distance and get the fight to the mat where he needs to be. He definitely needs to be on the mat in this fight, though. For every second that ticks by on the clock that Mamute is on his feet, he's got every chance of getting laid out by one of those bombs from Menifield. But the biggest gap in skill, in my opinion, in this fight is on the mat. And I do think Mamute is going to get him down at some point. He's going to have to weather some sort of storm. He's going to have to have a plan to close the distance effectively without taking too much punishment. He's got to have that game plan, but I just don't think that's a hard thing to try and really work on during training camp, just being able to close the distance effectively. And when he gets his hands on Menifield, if he gets Menifield down and he's got a couple of minutes to work, I think that's a wrap, man. Like, Mamute is legit that good on the mat. And I'm taking the underdog in this fight. I think Vinicius Mamute is going to end up submitting Alonzo Menifield. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got Joanne Calderwood taking on the newcomer, Ariane Lipski. And, man, this is a woman that we've seen in KSW for many years now, KSW champion, and I'm so excited to see her joining in the UFC. So, John, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, this is a great fight. It was obviously meant to be taking place, I think, at UFC 233, which obviously was cancelled. So it was moved over to this card, and it's going to be a great fight. Calderwood, she got back in the win column in her last fight. She threw up that triangle armbar from the bottom in the very late in the first round against Kalindra Faria to break that streak of losses against Cynthia Calvillo and Jessica Andrade. But yeah, I'm expecting this fight to play out on the feet between Jojo and the Violence Queen. Lipski, you're probably more aware of her because I know you're a big KSW guy. You follow KSW a lot. I've seen bits and bobs of her. I've seen more of her from some of the footage I was watching in preparation of this podcast, and man, she's a beast. She throws with power. She throws combination. She throws in flurries. That victory over, I think it was Diana Belbita, I think it was. She just beating her up on the floor, on the feet, and then it went to the ground, and she got that armbar from the bottom, so she can throw up submissions from the bottom herself. I'm also trying to think. I think it was the Lebonska fight as well, where she landed that flurry up against the cage and then that big body kick. And man, she's such a dangerous fighter. When they fighters close distance, she locks on that tight clinch and throws knees and throws elbows, and she reminds me very much actually of Jojo Calderwood. They've got quite similar styles in that Muay Thai style. But I think Lipski's going to win this fight. I just think her output and the fact that she throws in those flurries and just the power she throws every shot with power and intent, and she's dangerous everywhere. I mean, like I say, if it goes to the ground, she can win. She can throw up a submission from the bottom, and yeah, I'm excited to see Lipski in the UFC, and I'm excited to see how she fares against someone who's got a proven record in the UFC. She's a very tough opponent to be making your debut against, but. Yeah, I'm going with Lipski in this one.
Yeah, man, I'm excited too, and I think this is a really good stylistic matchup as well because both, like you've already mentioned, both fighters come from a Muay Thai background. I think that Lipski's definitely got the better grappling, so if it does hit the mat, I would favour Lipski in this spot. I definitely think it's a better fight than I'm sure Lipski was matched up against Marina Moroz, which I think that's the best thing Marina Moroz ever did, pulling out that fight, because that's probably just extended her career by a couple of years. Now, with Lipski, like we've mentioned, she's all violent, she's tough, she's gritty, and we've seen her come back from adversity as well. You know, I watched tape in KSW fights where she was dropped and she's come back and dominated the fight and got a decision. I've seen her get taken down. I've seen her from that takedown get an armbar from bottom. I've seen her have a back taken and a stand back up from it and exit away from the cage. So she's 24 years old, and these are all the types of things that you need to see from a young fighter going through adversity this early in your career when you're a promising prospect. Is a great thing. Like, I don't think Joanne Calderwood's going to put her in any sort of dangerously finishing positions that Lipski hasn't overcome in the past. And like I say, for a 24-year-old making a UFC debut, that's definitely an advantage for you. Now, The bit that I don't quite like about Lipski, and this is something that she is going to have to develop on, and I think she will. You know, she's 24, and we can expect to see drastic improvements fight by fight. Definitely, she's at that age where she is going to be making those improvements. I've seen that she joined Cyborg down at
Yeah,
Cyborg's gym as well, so that's only going to be bringing her on leaps and bounds also. But what I don't like is when she's in space, when she's at distance, she doesn't throw volume. She it almost looks like she waits for the right time to throw that burst of energy in and
yeah,
really pack like a 5 or 6 punch combination together, mixing the tie clinch and the knees. That's where she's great. But man, out in the open, she doesn't really throw too much. Like you'll see with some fighters, even if it's just, you know, a soft leg kick. I say soft, that would probably give me a dead leg for a month. But even if it's just you know, some leg kicks or throwing a jab out there or feinting to create a reaction from your opponent, she just doesn't have any of that. And I almost feel in the UFC, when you're fighting a fighter like Joanne Calderwood, and this is a concern for me in this fight, when you're fighting a fighter like Joanne Calderwood that will throw something out there, you know, it may not be thrown to land with intent, but it's thrown to land. It's a significant strike and it adds up, and the judges like to see that.
yeah,
And I just feel in some fights, if she doesn't fix that part of the game and fix it quickly at this level in the UFC, she could end up finding herself on the wrong end of some decisions, you know, because
mm,
we see fights time and time again where it's explosive bursts versus volume, and more often than not, it's the volume fighters that end up winning the decision. And like I say, I don't always agree with that because, you know, it's the aggression and the power in the volume strikes that also should count. So I just feel that if Lipski doesn't fix that side of a game, then she's going to end up on the wrong end of some decisions, and this could be one.
yeah,
I'm telling you now, this line's too wide in my opinion. Joanne Calderwood will. She is tough herself. She will be throwing volume. She will move forward herself. She'll move backwards and strike if she needs to. She'll just be throwing constantly. That's what she does, and she is a volume fighter. And I genuinely could see if Lipski really, she's either got to do one of two things. She's either got to fix that part of a game, or she's got to be in Joanne Calderwood's face at all times because
yeah,
um, that's the being in the face of Joanne Calderwood would be the better game plan. That's going to be how she wins this fight. I ultimately think that is how she is going to win this fight. But just be careful because if she hasn't fixed that distance striking when things aren't happening enough and her opponent is throwing the shots out and she's not really throwing anything out in return until she's in range, that could be a potential issue on the judges' scorecards. But I do think Lipski overcomes this. Whether she fixes that for this fight, I'm not sure. I could be inclined to say yes because I do think the developments are going to be there. But I just think she's going to be in Joanne Calderwood's face. I think she's going to be piling volume on inside the pocket. I think she's going to be trying to clinch up and land knees. I'm not sure she finishes Joanne Calderwood. I'm going to give Calderwood the benefit of the doubt that she's tough and that she'll be able to take the punishment inside the pocket because Joanne Calderwood's a good tie fighter herself. You know,
yeah,
when it's going to be in close, she's going to be looking for the knees. She's got a good lead elbow. She's got a good tie clinch herself. She's also got decent angles where she can angle out of the cage if it gets too much. I think this is a great fight, man, but I think Lipski's going to win it. I think the volume in the pocket's going to be there. I think she is going to be in the face of Joanne Calderwood more often than she's not, and therefore I just think she's just going to rack up points on the scorecard. So I've got Ariane Lipski winning via decision. Now in the next fight of the night, we've got Donald Cerrone against Alexander Hernandez. What a fight, man. John, who have you got?
yeah. This is a really good fight. Obviously, we've seen Donald Cerrone moving back down to lightweight for this fight, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for him because obviously we saw his last fight at welterweight against Mike Perry, and he got that armbar victory. He looked very impressive in that fight against Perry, but obviously he'd been on a bit of a bad run, only winning one of his previous five, losing to Leon Edwards, Darren Till, Robbie Lawler, Jorge Masvidal, and picking up that sole win against Yancy Medeiros. This is a real battle of old guard versus new. Hernandez is the new breed of fighter, the new kid on the block, and so far he's been impressive. Obviously, we saw him obliterate Dariush very early in their fight, his UFC debut. Defeated him within a minute of the first round, absolutely put him to sleep. And then we saw the much more gritty side of him as he beat Olivier Aubin-Mercier, who is a tough opponent. And he was Aubin-Mercier is a very good wrestler. We know Hernandez is a very good wrestler. Hernandez said after that fight that he wasn't particularly happy with his performance, but he still came out there with the unanimous decision victory. It's a really tough one because obviously Cerrone has stated how many times before that cutting down to lightweight has affected him, and especially he's been especially prone to body shots and things like that when he's been down at lightweight. I think that's partly to do with an accident that he had earlier on, where I think he had to some of his intestine or something like that had to be removed, and he has found himself susceptible to body shots and heavier blows down at lightweight. And Hernandez hits hard. I mean, we saw that against Dariush. For me, I think Hernandez is going to have too much for Cerrone in this one. I think he's going to be able to take Cerrone down. Cerrone is, I don't think people give him enough credit for his own wrestling, his own ground game. I mean, we know he's very dangerous off his back, but he does have the ability to take the fight to the mat as well himself if he needs to or wants to. But
dude, he's got the most finishes in UFC history.
Yeah, well, we all know what he's about, don't we? We all know he's a dangerous fighter, both standing and when it goes down to the mat. But I think Hernandez has got solid wrestling. He'll be able to take him down. I think he's got a good, solid top game as well. I think that's where Cerrone stands his best chance of winning. He's thrown up a submission off his back and catching Hernandez off guard, or using that experience of Cerrone's to lock on a submission. But I think Hernandez is going to be able to withstand it. I think he's going to be wise to it. I think he like I said, I think he's going to be able to take the fight to the ground. I think he's going to be able to keep Cerrone there, and I think he's going to be able to fend off Cerrone's submission attacks, and I think he's going to get the unanimous decision victory. So I'm going with Alexander Hernandez to win via unanimous decision in this one.
See, I agree and I disagree with some points there, because I don't think Alexander Hernandez is going to go to the ground. I think he can, but yeah. I think it's a huge risk for him because, and I've said this about certain fighters in the past, off the top of my head, I can't really remember but which fighters exactly, but when Cerrone is the type of fight you've got to take down and pass. You've got to pass that guard, at least into half guard, side control if you're really feeling feeling lucky. But again, in side control, I think Cerrone's got the opportunity to sweep there as well, or just transition back to full guard, and then he can start working his guard game. Cerrone's got a great guard game. Yeah. I think it's a big risk in this fight for Alexander Hernandez to take Cerrone down, and Hernandez has got to be sure that, because I've always said this, great wrestling, great topside wrestling nullifies the best submission guys in the game, because that's just how dominant wrestling is. Now, Hernandez has got to be sure that his wrestling is on that level to stop Cerrone from submitting him on bottom. And A, I don't know if it is. I'd have to see that. And B, I would imagine Hernandez may have the same thoughts as well. Now, where Hernandez is going to have the advantages in this fight, in my opinion, is on the feet. So he is a little bit shorter than Cerrone, but what that means is he's going to have the extra drive to push forward and close the distance, because he's not going to win a fight on the outside. So that pressure of him pushing forward. Maybe he might attack with a few takedowns or grind him against the cage. This would be another good thing for Hernandez if he could get a hold of Cerrone and just press him against the cage and just work dirty boxing, the short knees, just doing those little things that just stop the ref from splitting them up for a few minutes, and then the ref will split it up because he's had enough of seeing the short sharp shots. And I feel that could be a good game plan for him. Just make it into an ugly, boring fight in a sense. We don't really like to see two fighters clinch on the cage for 15 minutes, let's be honest. But that's a good path to victory for him. Now, Cerrone tends to crumble under pressure. We saw it with Jorge Masvidal. We saw it with Darren Till. I know Darren Till was huge in that fight, but it's still that pressure, that forward aggressive pressure, ripping shots to the body, ripping shots to the head. Now, Hernandez, again, has to be careful because Cerrone's got good knees. He's got a good clinch himself. He could easily start landing on Hernandez. I like Hernandez in this fight to win, but I think that Cerrone's definitely got paths to victory. I don't think Hernandez has got an easy fight here at all. I'm also not sold that Donald Cerrone's washed up yet. I did once upon a time, a few fights ago. I said I was wrong after that fight, and now I'm sat here talking about a Donald Cerrone 3 fights later. Absolutely, I was wrong. Like, I couldn't have been more wrong. I just don't think he's washed up yet. I really, really don't. And I think that he's going to pose a lot of... I don't think he's going to be an imposing figure inside that cage towards Hernandez, but I think whatever Hernandez does in the fight, Cerrone can have an answer for. And I just think that the veteran experience and knowing all the tricks in the book and knowing what Hernandez is going to bring to the table, I just think Cerrone can have an answer in a lot of places. I do think it's going to go to a decision unless Hernandez does crumble him with a body shot. That's Hernandez's path to victory for a finish for sure. I think it's going to go to a decision. I think Cerrone will survive that pressure. I know I've said that he does crumble in the past. That tends to be his downfall. I do think he survives in this one. I think it's going to be a really, really close decision. So I'm going to take Alexander Hernandez to win, and I'm going to take him to win via decision. Now on to the main card. In the first fight on the main card, we've got, again, a newly matched fight in Glover Teixeira versus Karl Roberson. Glover Teixeira obviously supposed to fight Ion Cutelaba. Cutelaba pulled out the same night as Lineker, I believe. So now Karl Roberson's making his light heavyweight debut on a week's notice. Interesting stuff, man. Who have you got?
Yeah, interesting fight, interesting matchup with Roberson coming up from middleweight to take on Teixeira. That fight with Cutelaba, that could have been a war. I think it could have been another defeat on the record for Teixeira if that would have come to fruition. But here we are talking about a fight between Teixeira and Karl Roberson. Teixeira is on the decline. I think we all know that now. He's coming up to 40 years of age. He's alternated wins and losses now for the last few years. He got completely outgrinded by Corey Anderson, and Corey Anderson looked really good in that fight, and Glover just looked, by the end, he just looked dejected, I think is the best word to describe it. But it was not so long ago that Teixeira was defeating Misha Cirkunov, who's a dangerous fighter at light heavyweight. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of Glover Teixeira comes out in this fight. Like I said, the one against Anderson just looked dejected by the end, just completely out-grappled, just taken down, grinded out against the cage, and yeah, so it was a comfortable victory for Corey Anderson in that fight. Robeson's coming in. I mean, he's certainly made an impact in the UFC so far. He's that victory over Ryan Spann in the Contender Series, which got him his first shot in the UFC. He got that victory after 15 seconds with those big elbows.
After 3 replays, you still don't understand it.
and then we have the Darren Stewart fight. Darren Stewart's a dangerous guy, and he got the first round rear naked choke in that fight. And then he lost to Cesar Verheya. And then most recently he defeated Jack Marshman. He looked good against Jack Marshman. He was pumping out that jab, and Marshman just didn't have any answer for it other than to block the jab with his face. And Roberson looked pretty comfortable on his way to a decision victory.
He was injured in that fight as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Karl
yeah,
Roberson. He hurt his hand. He hurt something in the middle of
the
fight.
Yeah, he did, yeah. It'd be interesting to see how he fares against Teixeira, who's a natural light heavyweight. It'd be interesting to see whether he can make that step up, similar to the way Thiago Santos has, or whether the size difference will play a factor. Teixeira's dangerous in the clinch. If he gets you up against the cage, he'll clinch you and he'll hit you with knees, elbows. He's dangerous if the fight goes to the ground as well, and he's got pretty good boxing. And I fancy go over to Teixeira in this one. I think, again, I've talked a lot about experience today, but he has got the experience factor over for Roberson. This is by far Roberson's toughest challenge to date. He's stepping up against a natural light heavyweight when he competes at middleweight himself. He's coming up against an opponent who's dangerous all over, wherever the fight goes. Roberson's best shot, I think, is with that explosiveness and catching Teixeira, but Teixeira's pretty hard to put away. I mean, obviously he lost to Anthony Johnson in 13 seconds, but Anthony Johnson's a freak and he just hits ridiculously hard. Obviously, again, he got put away by Alexander Gustafsson, but Gustafsson beat him up. He put him away in the 5th round, and Gustafsson had beat him up for pretty much the entirety of that fight. He caught him with some very heavy shots. He took about 3 or 4 consecutive uppercuts to finally put him away. So he can take a shot from. I know I've just spoke about 2 guys who have just finished him, but I'd say they're exceptions.
I know what you mean.
Rather than the exceptions, rather than the rule, and he can take a shot against natural light heavyweights. So I think he'll be able to weather whatever storm Roberson brings, and I think he'll just use that experience, that additional strength and size at light heavyweight to overcome Roberson in this one. And I think Teixeira will either finish it late on in the fight, or he'll take a decision win.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, what you were saying there. You know, Gustafsson gave him everything that he had, and it took him sort of like 22 minutes or whatever it was to finally put him away. And listen, everybody that Anthony Rumble Johnson hits has to go to sleep. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Glover Teixeira is on a decline, but he's not washed up, and I think there's a difference between the two there.
Yeah.
You can still be a decent fighter on the decline. I think you've got a few stages. You've got decline, heavy decline, and then being washed up. I think Teixeira is on the decline. I don't think he's heavily declined, and like I've already mentioned, I definitely don't think he's washed up. So you can still be a good fighter, and you'll have vet experience by the time that you start declining as well. Now, I agree with you. If this was Ian Cutelaba, I think Cutelaba would have put him out. He is a natural light heavyweight, so he has fought them the majority of his career. He does pack the power and have the speed of a natural light heavyweight. Whereas Karl Roberson coming up on a week's notice, I get it. I get why he's fighting at light heavyweight, because he doesn't have to have a weight cut. So he can just he'll have likely been training anyway. Probably nothing ridiculously heavy because he didn't have a fight lined up, but he doesn't have to have a weight cut, so I get why he's moving up. But then that presents a lot of questions. So how's Karl Roberson going to cope if the fight has to go 3 rounds at a heavier weight? How do you handle the extra mass on his body? Does the extra mass hurt his cardio? We saw with Conor McGregor when he went up to welterweight to fight Nate Diaz that it definitely hurt his cardio. He'll likely be a little bit slower at light heavyweight because it's a bigger division. You know, you're not as quick as you are in the lighter division. So there's a lot of questions that cannot be answered until after this fight with Karl Roberson. But for me, there's 3 key fights in to look at when you're looking at this matchup. Glover Teixeira against Jared Cannonier, Glover Teixeira against Misha Cirkunov, and Karl Roberson against Cesar Ferreira. So I'll explain all 3. So first of all, Glover Teixeira against Misha Cirkunov, which was his last win. Misha Cirkunov is a better wrestler and he's a better grappler than Karl Roberson, in my opinion. And he's also a good striker as well. Yet Glover Teixeira went into that fight. He hung with him on the feet. He took him out and he took him down and then he took him out of the fight. That's a big finish for Glover Teixeira. It's a big win. But to actually put Misha Cirkunov out is impressive, man. Then you look at Glover Teixeira against Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier was having this reputation where he's throwing the big power, he's got big bombs. He was coming down from heavyweight as well, by the way, at that point. Yeah. So Glover Teixeira knew all this, and he knew that he'd be deficient on his back. Glover Teixeira looked like a D1 wrestler in that fight. You know, he didn't want to stand at all. All he wanted to do was take him down, grind him out. He knew he couldn't. Jared Cannonier couldn't get back up to his feet, and he just wanted to take the win at all, at any cost whatsoever. And that's a smart thing to do. So you know his fight IQ's there, and you know his ability's still there. So that's why I wanted to explain those 2 fights. And then you look at Karl Roberson against Cesar Ferreira. Now Roberson is an ex-pro kickboxer. He's a good kickboxer. He's sharp. He's crisp. He's accurate. But where he's deficient is on his back, and Cesar Mutanch completely exposed that. He took him down once. I think Roberson did manage to get back up to his feet. He took him down a second time, and he just swarmed all over him on the mat and ended up submitting him quite comfortably. Now, Glover Teixeira is a 2nd-degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So if this fight hits the mat with Glover Teixeira on top, if Glover Teixeira comes in with that game plan that he had against Jared Cannonier, I'm telling you now, it's not going to last very long, because where he couldn't submit Jared Cannonier, I think that he will be able to submit Karl Roberson. I'm not saying Jared Cannonier is better off his back than Roberson. I just think Jared Cannonier was physically much bigger and much heavier, and Glover Teixeira had to be really careful because he didn't want him to get back up to his feet. Whereas Karl Roberson, I agree with the same sentiment. I don't think Glover Teixeira is going to want to take this fight on the feet too long, because if he does, I do think Roberson will crack him and put him out. He's still going to hit hard for a light heavyweight. He's still going to hit fast for a light heavyweight. I just think Glover Teixeira is going to come out with a game plan to take Karl Roberson down. Why wouldn't he? Why would he stay on the feet with a guy like that? Why risk it? It's not worth the risk for Glover Teixeira. And then he knows that he's going to be experienced. Glover Teixeira knows that Karl Roberson is going to be experiencing new things up a weight class. So for me, if Glover Teixeira doesn't come out like this, and he does come out and starts to hang on the feet with Roberson, he's going to get knocked out. But I just don't think he's going to. It's this vet experience, that fight IQ, where a fighter knows where he's going to win in any specific fight. If he's deficient on the mat, that veteran will stay on the feet. If he's deficient on the feet, that veteran will go to the mat. And the good thing for Glover Teixeira is he's very well-rounded, so he can do both. In this fight, I don't think he stands. So I'm going to take Glover Teixeira to win, and I'm going to take him to win via submission. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got Paige VanZant versus Rachael Ostovich. So, John, who have you got in this one?
It's really good to see these two ladies back fighting. Obviously, Paige VanZant had that broken arm in her last fight. Against I think it was his last fight against Jessica Rose Clark, and then obviously Ostovich has had issues outside of the UFC that I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's really good to see her on the card and fighting. And I know she said at the time when all these issues came out that she just got to go out there and keep doing what she's doing and show these people that she's full of fight. So yeah, it's great to see them both back for those respective reasons. Interesting fight. Obviously, we've seen Paige VanZant at flyweight again, which I think suits her better, and is the more natural weight class for her. Looking back over a record, I think she's faced tougher opponents than Ostovich. I mean, Jessica Rose Clark, we mentioned, Michelle Waterson, Rose Namajunas, of course. Obviously in that fight, Namajunas did pretty much beat the brakes off her for the entirety of the 5 rounds. But Felice Herrig, I mean, these are all good fighters. And even when you go back to Invicta, I know this is a long time ago, back in 2013, but Teixeira Torres as well. Ostovich, as we've seen, came from the Ultimate Fighter. She won in the Ultimate Fighter finale, but then lost her last fight, the Ultimate Fighter 27 finale against Montana De La Rosa. I think Paige VanZant is going to win this fight. I think she's come up against tougher opponents previously. No disrespect intended to Ostovich there, but I just think over the course of her career to date, she's come up against tougher opposition. Got to bear in mind as well that she's only 24 years old, so she's still improving. I think she's quite dangerous everywhere. We saw in that in the Beck Rawlings win. She's dangerous. She's dangerous, especially on the feet. She likes to throw a lot of kicks. She likes to mix it up with the kicks as well. She'll throw that jumping switch kick and spinning heel kicks and all sorts. She's dangerous on the ground. We saw her get the armbar win over Alex Chambers, and she's tough as well. I mean, that we saw her fighting with a broken arm previously and carrying on, and we saw in that Rose Namajunas fight she was completely busted wide open. You could barely see her face through just a mask of blood, and she just came out and kept fighting, and she's real tough cooking. She's really hard to put away, and I just think she's going to have too many weapons for Ostovich. I think she'll be better. She'll be lighter and quicker on the feet, and I think that will just help her get the edge in the stand-up battle, and just rack up the points as the fight goes to a decision. And I think Paige VanZant will come out of this one with a decision win, and get back in the win column.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with a lot of the points you've just made there. I think Paige VanZant for sure has fought the better competition. She tends to have lost against that great competition, but a lot of people will lose to Jessica Rose Clark. A lot of people will and have already lost to Michelle Waterson, and nothing else needs to be said about Rose Namajunas. There are 3 latest losses, obviously, like you mentioned. You got Teixeira Torres down there as well. Again, another great fighter, but the type of fighter that Paige VanZant loses against is the type of fighter that closes distance aggressively, looks to get a hold of you, sort of manhandle you, throw you to the mat, really work an aggressive physical game. The fights where Paige VanZant really flourishes are the fights completely opposite to that. So where she's got the distance management down to a T, where she's moving in and out of range at will, where she's allowed to be at kicking range most of the time, because that's where her game seems to flourish the most. And once she's at kicking range, she can then decide when she moves in and out of range, and that's where Paige VanZant's really good. Now, for me, Rachael Ostovich can adopt a game plan where she is physical. I think she's going to be the bigger woman inside the cage, the thicker woman, the more powerful woman. I think she has got the path to victory of closing Paige VanZant down and just getting a hold of her and putting her on the mat. Ostovich is decent on the mat herself. She's got a couple of submission wins. Yes, she's been submitted a couple of times as well, albeit, but that's Ostovich's path to victory. Now, I say she can do that. I don't think we see that, though, because I just think that Paige VanZant's going to be so much quicker. I think her movement's going to be better. I think her angle's going to be better. I think that she starts to fight off really well. I think that Rachael Ostovich at some point, maybe halfway through this fight, realizes that she's down on the scorecards and she's losing the fight, or she might be losing the fight. And then I think that will make Ostovich try and come forward a little more aggressively, a little desperately, where Paige VanZant will be able to see that, will be able to see it telegraphed and be able to react to it, counter it, exit from the pressure. And the more desperate Ostovich becomes, the more clear of a victory it'll become for Paige VanZant, in my opinion. So I think Paige VanZant's going to win, and I agree with you. I think she's going to win via decision as well. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got Joseph Benavidez versus Dustin Ortiz. So this is a really interesting fight as well. John, who have you got?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm a fan of Joseph Benavidez, as I mentioned before the fight with Alex Perez, where he looked, I have to say, he looked really good in that fight, getting the first round victory via ground and pound.
It was a bit weird though, right? Am
yeah,
I the only one that thinks this?
Yeah, it was a bit strange, yeah. But he's a top guy. He's been around the top end of the division for pretty much all of his career. The two have previously fought back in 2014 with Benavidez getting the win, and since then Benavidez only got one loss on his record, and that's against Sergio Pettis earlier last year, back in June last year at UFC 225. Yeah, Benavidez he's a really well-rounded fighter. He obviously they're trained together at Alpha Male, him and Uriah Faber, and he does remind me of a flyweight version of Uriah Faber because he's got good wrestling, he's got good submissions, he's got good striking. He's just a really well-rounded fighter, and yeah, he's been pretty unfortunate the fact that he was around during the Mighty Mouse era, because if Mighty Mouse wasn't around, I'm pretty sure we'd have seen Benavidez as the champion at some point in the flyweight division. Yeah, Ortiz offers. He's a very dangerous fighter himself. His last fight against Nicolau, who everyone was really hyped on. Nicolau, he was coming into that fight in good form, and everyone was saying he could upset Ortiz, but Ortiz looked great in that fight and got the win via that head kick and follow up punches, and he's on a 3-fight win streak against dangerous guys as well, Alexander Pantoja and Hector Sandoval. Sandoval he put away really early in the first round as well, so we know he's got finishing power, and he's got that ability to put guys away even in the lower weight class. But for me, it's going to be Benavidez. He's going to make it 2-0 over Dustin Ortiz. Like I just mentioned, I think he's too well-rounded. I think he gets in and out with his strikes. I think he can take the fight to the mat if he wants to. Ortiz is a decent wrestler, good wrestler, but I think Benavidez MMA wrestling, which he picked up that trade, like I say, with the guys at Team Alpha Male, who are known for being very good MMA wrestlers. I think he does have the ability to take it to the ground if he wants, and yeah, I just think Joe B is going to have too much for him. I do think he'll go the distance. I don't think he'll be able to put Ortiz away, but I think Benavidez will get quite a comfortable unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, I was asking a lot of questions about Benavidez and is he done? He probably is, like I've just mentioned with Glover Teixeira, he probably is on the decline slightly.
Yeah.
But he's certainly not anywhere close to being done. I was asking those questions. I'm glad I stayed away from that bet as well with Alex Perez, because I was very tempted to put the money down on him. And like I say, it was weird. It was very, very strange, but ultimately Benavidez got the job done. He was looking great in that fight. I think he started off a little bit slow, but you could see him come into the fight so quickly when he realised that Alex Perez was getting the upper hand in the fight. And what a performance that was, because I'm telling you, Alex Perez is not an easy guy to fight against, and definitely not an easy guy to put away. So all credit to Joe B. I really like his style. And I think his style's really hard to beat as well, because, like you mentioned, he's got this great MMA wrestling, where the shots are so reactive, they're so opportunistic. It's nothing's telegraphed, and that's why, in my opinion, they're so successful. He doesn't spend a lot of time grappling top time. I tend to find though that sort of a flyweight thing though, where you don't really see a lot of flyweights really control over the mat. Even the really, really good wrestlers in that division, such as Ray Borg and even Dustin Ortiz. Dustin Ortiz is probably one of the types of flyweights that do hold their opponents down for lengthy periods of time. But the thing is with Benavidez, he can get these takedowns whenever he wants them. Now, how easy is it going to be to take Ortiz down? Because Ortiz is a good wrestler himself. Like, he's got good takedowns, got good scrambles. They've both got good scrambles. We could see some really interesting transition scrambles in this fight. But on the feet, I think it's where the big difference is now. I don't think Benavidez is overly technical with his striking, but what he is good at is moving in and out so quickly. He can move in, land 2 or 3 shots, and move out before you can even blink. Like, it's crazy quick. And yeah, I think that's where he's going to have the best advantage in this fight. I think he's going to be in and out of range. He's going to be darting with his angles. I think Dustin Ortiz is a good striker. He does pack power. He's knocked a few people out at flyweight. He's got a good wrestler himself. I just don't think Benavidez is A, going to be there to be hit, and B, going to be there to be taken down. And where does that leave Dustin Ortiz from there? He's just going to be receiving volume, for the majority of the fight. Again, I agree with you, John. I don't think Benavidez is going to put him out of there, but I see a very, very comfortable decision for Joe Benavidez in this fight. Now, in the next fight of the night, we've got the return of Gregor Gillespie versus Yancy Medeiros. So, John, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, I was quite shocked when this fight was announced. I think he quite favours one fighter over the other. Obviously, we've seen Medeiros make that move down, back down to lightweight. Obviously, he's competed at welterweight up until the Cerrone fight, which was his last fight, where he got rocked and then put away late in the first round. He was on a little mini tear with 3 successive wins over Sean Spencer, Eric Silva, and that very impressive victory over Alex Cowboy Oliveira. But yeah, I mean, Gregor Gillespie's just a beast. I mean, he's a D1 wrestler. He gets the fighters to the ground. He beats them up, and if he doesn't put you away with ground and pound, he'll force you into a position where you more often than not give up the arm triangle, because that seems to be a bit of a signature move of him. He's got about 4 or 5 arm triangles on his record, and yeah, I just see this fight going the same way. Medeiros is most dangerous on the feet. I think Medeiros will know what Gillespie's going to do, and I think we know what Gillespie are going to do, but trying to stop it is a different thing, and I think Gillespie will be able to take Medeiros down, and then he'll just wear on him. He's got heavy top pressure. He lands vicious ground and pound, elbows, hammer fists, and like I say, he forces you into giving up positions and leaving yourself vulnerable to things such as the arm triangle, or if you give up your back, he's got a couple of rear naked chokes on his record again, and I just think this is going to follow suit, and I think Gillespie's going to take it down, beat up Medeiros, and I think second round he's going to do the damage, and Medeiros will give up a position, and Gillespie will lock on a submission and make it the perfect 13-0.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see Gregor Gillespie back. I'm not sure why he's been out so long and why he's been so inactive. I do think he needs to pick that up this year, because I can see him being a genuine and a legit contender in this division.
Definitely,
but
yeah.
He's got to be active. He's got to be fighting 3 times a year, because it is a shark tank of a division, man. To get to the top of this division, you've got to beat some really, really tough guys, and you're not going to do that by fighting like once a year. So he's got to pick that up for sure. But this guy's wrestling credentials are absolutely decorated. 4-time NCAA Division 1 All-American. He's won a national championship. He holds records in the school's histories for the first true freshman All-American. He holds the school record for most career wins. The guy is a legit wrestler. And like you've just said, Gregor Gillespie knows what he's going to do. His opponent knows what he's going to do. His opponent's coaches know what he's going to do. My mother knows what he's going to do. But yet nobody can stop it. It will come. He's relentless. He's absolutely relentless. I'm not saying he gets every takedown, but when he doesn't get a takedown, he'll just come back straight for another one. And if it's a bad shot, a bad takedown, and you get straight back up, you can guarantee he's still going to be holding onto a leg, ready to drag you back down again. He's unbelievable. And for me, Yancy Medeiros, I'm not sure why he's come back down in weight. No. He was doing fine at welterweight. He's also a big welterweight as well, and definitely a big lightweight. So. Not sure on the reason he's come back down, and I'm not sure why he's come back down and taken Gregor Gillespie. And do you know what? Absolute credit to Yancy Medeiros for taking a fight like this, because you can only imagine the amount of people that just say no the second that they hear Gregor Gillespie's name. I don't really know how else to break this fight down. I think Gregor Gillespie is going to come out. I think he's going to strike for a bit. He owns a lot of power in his hands as well. Now, that has seen him get cracked, in the past, and, a little bit stunned, but the dude's tough. When he gets stunned, he just level changes and goes straight for a takedown. He doesn't care. Do I think that Yancy Medeiros is going to be the one to knock him out? No, I don't. I think that Gillespie's going to come forward, he's going to throw a few hands, and then the takedown's going to come. I don't think that he's going to get Yancy out of there instantly. Yancy's got that Hawaiian blood, man. He's tough. Yeah. There's zero quitting the dude. So you're really going to have to do something special to put him out. That's why I don't think that it'll be ground and pound. I think it'll be a submission. I think Yancy will weather ground and pound storms all day long. But what you don't weather is getting choked out and your body shutting down on you because you can't breathe. So no matter how tough you are, you're not going to get out of that. So yeah, I think Gregor Gillespie is going to, again, like you mentioned, an arm triangle, or whether Yancy gives his back and it's a rear naked choke. I think Gregor Gillespie is going to submit him. I don't think it's going to be first round. I think Yancy's tough. I think he'll keep himself in there, but when it comes to does Yancy win this fight and how can he win this fight, I'm just really not sure. So I'm going Gregor Gillespie to win, and I'm going to take him to win via submission. Now in the next fight, in your co-main event of the evening, we've got Greg Hardy versus Alan Crowder. So John, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, first and foremost, I don't agree with this fight being the co-main event. I'm all for it. Obviously the UFC are wanting to flaunt the big name in Greg Hardy, obviously that NFL background, and he's got a very big name over in America and across the world really, and they want to flaunt that. But co-main event, I'm not quite sure. Maybe opening up the main card would have been more suitable, but the decision has been made, and he's the co-main event against Alan Crowder. So Greg Hardy, so what do we know of him so far? He's 3-0 as a professional. He wins all his fights within a minute. He's super athletic, as you'd expect from a former NFL player. He's really explosive, powerful, quick. I think he had 3 amateur fights as well, if I'm not mistaken. He won all of those in the first round as well. So the one question that we always ask as well in these situations is what happens if Greg Hardy hits Alan Crowder with 3 or 4 big shots, and we start to get to 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the first round, and then the bell comes in the first round, and we're going into the second round. How does Greg Hardy fare then if it lasts that long? These questions, obviously, we don't know the answers to yet, because so far he's got a 100% record of getting in there and getting it done with what appears to be minimal effort. Alan Crowder, we saw him, a guy again that's come from Dana White's Contender Series, and then we saw him in his UFC debut all the way back in December of 2017. So a long time ago, against Justin Willis at UFC 218. He lost in the first round, midway through the first round. He didn't really put Willis under any danger. He caught him with a few shots, but he didn't seem to have the power to really cause Willis any real damage or put him in any real threat. And then as soon as Willis landed a couple of shots that stunned Crowder and sent him tumbling back to the defence, and then he put him away with a big shot, and the fight was over. It's really hard to tell because we've seen so little of Greg Hardy. I mean, the combined time he spent competing has lasted for less than like 3 minutes, so it's really hard to judge. But from what I've seen, I think Crowder's a guy they've put in there against Greg Hardy that they know Greg Hardy can get a result against, and they know that he can build his name off of these wins early on. So, and I'm of the same opinion. I think Hardy's going to go in there. I think his athleticism and his power, his explosiveness, I think at some point he will land on Alan Crowder in the first round, and similar to that Justin Willis fight, I think Crowder's legs will go, and Hardy will either swarm for the finish if Crowder's not already been completely put away and he's catching a few Z's on the canvas. So I'm going with Greg Hardy, another first round victory.
Yeah, and I know a few things, so I'll talk about them. The first thing that I know is Greg Hardy is with American Top Team, which is perfect for him because he's with some world-class coaches, world-class partners. Obviously, Junior Dos Santos is there, so what better heavyweight can you want to learn from? You know, the guy that's been an ex-champion and been in there, seen it all, done it all, and still fighting. So, first and foremost with American Top Team. Now, I also saw a brief interview with Greg Hardy and Pat Miletich where Greg Hardy was basically just saying that he's not really having any sort of say in what he's doing right now. He's taking all the advice from American Top Team. American Top Team were the ones, I believe, that put him through the amateur bouts. Said don't go straight to pro, get some wins under your belt. Hardy's basically just the yes man right now and just doing everything that American Top Team are telling him to do. He's almost like a student of the. Well, he is a student of the game. He's learning. He's 3-0, with massive potential and definitely going to be developing from fight to fight. So I just know that Greg Hardy in his mindset's in the right place. He's just doing what he's being told to do by the people that know better than him. I think. He comes across as maybe a guy that would just be like, nah, I'm going to do it my way, it's my way or no way. But he's not like that with Hardy. He's, like I say, he's just doing everything he's being told to do and he's taking everything on board. He's almost like a sponge at this point. Then you look at Alan Crowder. So Justin Willis knocked him out. We've seen him brutally knocked out inside the cage. I'm telling you, because you've seen that, it just adds to how bad of a night I think this is going to be for Alan Crowder. Then you go back and watch Don'Tale Mayes fight in the Dana White Contender Series. This was a guy that this fight is. I don't really like to criticize because, like I always say, I'm just sat on my couch breaking fights down. But this fight was so terrible. His opponent in Mays was so bad that even Snoop Dogg was joking, saying he wouldn't take him to the gang fight. This is a professional mixed martial artist on Dana White's Contender Series. And Snoop Dogg's making fun of, saying he's not going to take him to a gang fight. This is not Alan Crowder, by the way. This is an opponent that Alan Crowder couldn't get out of there until the very last round. The fight was so sloppy. They were both gassed after like a minute. You can't really tell how bad Crowder was gassed because of how bad Mays was gassed. So I'm not sure. Well, I am sure. I was about to say I'm not sure why this fight is happening. I am sure because the UFC know exactly what they're doing. The UFC have put Greg Hardy on a co-main event. Greg Hardy is the guy that they're trying to build up. He's the psycho-looking guy that's just looks crazy even after he's knocked the guy out and the fight's over. He's just there looking absolutely nuts. This is the guy that the UFC are trying to build to be the next generation heavyweight, a guy that's going to bring in so much revenue and so many eyes. And this is what the UFC are seeing with Greg Hardy. And then now they're putting Alan Crowder in against Greg Hardy. It's like I've said before, and I say constantly, 2 and 2 equals 4, and that's what it is in this fight. I'd be very, very, very surprised if Alan Crowder gets the win. I'm not sure how he does. I mean, it is heavyweight, so the bottom line is Crowder could catch him, but then there's also a big difference in the weight. Alan Crowder, he isn't the biggest heavyweight, 237 pounds roughly he weighs in. Greg Hardy hits the heavyweight limit, so there's a big weight discrepancy. But like I say, they do hit hard. He could knock him out in sort of like a flurry or whatever, but I really, really, really don't see it happening. You're asking the right questions. John, you were saying that we've only ever seen him in round 1. What happens in round 2? What happens in round 3? I personally think he'll be okay, because he is very athletic. He's been doing professional sports all his life. So if he can't get Crowder out of there in round 1 for whatever reason, I do trust him to win 2 rounds out of 3. I think Crowder's gas tank will be on par, if not worse. So I would trust Greg Hardy over 3 rounds to grab at least 2 of the rounds if need be. But like I said, the questions are the right questions. I could keep going on and on. I think Greg Hardy's going to knock him out. I think he's going to knock him out in round 1. That's what the UFC want. I think that's what the UFC have set up, and they've given it a co-main event for that reason. So I've got Greg Hardy via knockout. Now in the main event of the evening, what a fight this is! We've got the champion versus champion. We've got the flyweight champion Henry Cejudo taking on the bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw. John, who have you got?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this this champ versus champ fight. Again, similar to the Belal Muhammad fights that we were talking about earlier on. My opinion of who's going to win this fight has changed over the last couple of weeks. When the fight was first announced, I was all for TJ Dillashaw winning this fight. I thought he's the better fighter standing up. He'll be bigger, being a natural bantamweight. He's got good wrestling himself, good MMA wrestling. Obviously not the credentials that Cejudo has as an Olympian, but he's got good MMA wrestling, good scrambles. So I thought Dillashaw's got all the tools there to get the job done. But the more I've looked at, the more tape that I've seen, the more things I've seen out there on social media of how Dillashaw's looking with the weight cut. I mean, he put a picture out about a week or so ago, and when I think he was just starting his cut down, and man, he looked rough then, and that was just the start of the cut. And the more I look at it, I think the cut is going to have a big effect on Dillashaw's performance. His style is a lot about movement and staying on his feet and erratic movements, and very similar to you mentioned with Dominic Cruz, has got a very obviously we've seen very strange movements and things like that, and Dillashaw's the same as well. He moves, he cuts a lot of angles and a lot of footwork, and I think that the cut it has to play some kind of have some kind of effect on Dillashaw and on his conditioning, and Cejudo's used to he can go 5 rounds. We saw that in the Demetrius Johnson fight. That was a very, very close fight. It could have gone either way, but he got the win. He got the belt, and he proved that he can go 5 hard rounds as well. It looked early on in the fight with Johnson landing those heavy low leg kicks that Cejudo was going to be struggling with his mobility, but he shook them off, and he came back. He took Mighty Mouse down, and when Mighty Mouse got back to his feet, he caught him a few times standing, and then he took him down again. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dillashaw came out and looked good in round 1, looked good for round 2, halfway through round 2, and then maybe slowly starts to fade, and Cejudo starts to take the upper hand, and he starts to land a couple of takedowns and get a bit of top time, and then Dillashaw has to expand a bit more energy working back to his feet. Obviously Dillashaw not really used to been on his back very much, and he'll have to expand energy getting back to his feet, and then Cejudo will just keep working on that and playing to that. He'll keep it standing until he sees the opportunity to shoot, and if he can get Dillashaw down again and hold him down again for a period of time, and the whole process is going to continue. And then, like I say, then that conditioning factor plays into it. And yeah, I from when the fight was originally announced, I've did a full 180, and I believe Henry Cejudo is going to win this fight. I don't think he's going to get Dillashaw out of there. I think he'll go the distance, and Cejudo will take another close decision. One other thing that I did forget to mention as well is Dillashaw. He's quite hot-headed, and he'll get into some wild exchanges. As we saw that in the Cody Garbrandt fight. Obviously, that was a very personal, not so personal with Cejudo. But if he gets frustrated in the second or third round, and Cejudo's having success with the takedowns, Dillashaw may come out and get a bit wild and expand even more energy, like I've just talked about. Will Cejudo catch him enough to put him down or put him away? I don't think so. He can catch him, and Dillashaw can be knocked down, and even like we saw in the Garbrandt fight, and he can be put away. But as we saw in the John Dodson fight, but I don't think Cejudo's going to do that. But I just think that the fact that if Dillashaw does get frustrated and starts to get a bit reckless with his striking, he'll expand more energy, and he'll just continue to have a detrimental effect on him for the remainder of the fight. And yeah, I think Cejudo is going to get the win here, and I think it's going to be, like I say, it's going to be a very close fight. Dillashaw may be taking the first round or two, but then Cejudo coming back strong and taking the decision.
I for sure thought I was going to be on my own with this one. But no, it looks like I'm not. Listen, earlier on I was talking about how decorated Gregor Gillespie was with his wrestling. Henry Cejudo is a gold medalist at the Olympics. 2008 in Beijing, he won the gold medal.
You don't get higher than that, do you?
Nah, man. And the thing is with Cejudo as well, is I genuinely believe that he's finally bridged that gap between his Olympic wrestling and MMA wrestling. Now,
yeah.
I said on a previous podcast, I can't remember which one it was, when I was talking about Cejudo, that it takes time for these pure wrestlers to evolve into MMA. And looking at Cejudo's last fight against Mighty Mouse, I think it's really clear that evolution's complete. I think his Olympic wrestling and MMA wrestling is now hand in hand. We saw that, and he posted a few demonstrations out on social media as well about, you know, when he's closing the distance and he's throwing the knee to the body and then stepping in. That's the stuff that I'm talking about. That's his Olympic wrestling. His Olympic wrestling with the takedowns mixed with the knees of MMA. So I know that's only one example, but, you know, watch that fight back with DJ. By the way, a fight he definitely won. Like, I was saying to somebody the other day that I genuinely, without tape, I genuinely forget a lot that goes on in the main events of UFCs after the events happen, because we watch it at 6 a.m. in the morning, you know, we're naturally tired.
I forget a lot about every fight, not just the main event.
Well, I did that. The same thing happened with Cejudo and Mighty Mouse, and I rewatched the fight, and man, like, a lot of people aren't going to agree with me with this. I genuinely think there's an argument that Cejudo won 4 rounds in that fight. I think he won 3, and then there was another round, I think it was the second round, where you could argue either way. But he's also worked on his grappling a lot too. When he was taking Mighty Mouse down, again, something that not many people have achieved, he was holding him down. He was doing some nice things to control. And then there was a moment in one of the rounds where he held him down for like 2 minutes, and he was transitioning from full guard to half guard and just trying to get some positions. Again, just working on top of Mighty Mouse late in a fight. Again, it's just things that no other fighter is being able to do. But then, if this still isn't good enough for you, go and look at the evolution of his striking. The dude comes out in a karate stance.
Karate stance, yeah.
Like, just appeared out of nowhere, and he switches stance as well. We saw it again in his last fight with Mighty Mouse, where he hurt his calf. I think he said it was a low calf kick that messed up some of his muscle, so he had to change stances. He wasn't as effective, but you know, he can work on both stances with this karate style. He's got a great in and out movement, distance management. He was countering the kicks of Mighty Mouse beautifully, and bear in mind, these come so quickly we can barely even see it on TV, yet he was managing to counter these kicks. I'm telling you, Henry Cejudo has transformed into an amazing mixed martial artist. And go back and watch his fights in order. It's beautiful to see, man, that someone that's come in and is very raw in MMA but does have a talent in a certain area, this being wrestling, and just being able to evolve it. Now, he is in a tough fight. He's got TJ Dillashaw, a guy that I love, a guy that I respect a lot. I genuinely think he's the best bantamweight we've ever seen in the world. I don't hate the argument with Dominic Cruz if people want to come and fire that back. You know, I get that side of it. But for me, he's got power, he's got wrestling himself, he's a D1 wrestler, he's got speed, he's got a good mixture of kicks and punches. But the point of this fight, for me, is TJ Dillashaw has got that in abundance at bantamweight. Now, you look at bantamweight and flyweight, the difference between these two divisions is astronomical. There's a reason why in all other divisions you'll see fighters moving up and down and changing weight divisions. You don't see many fighters coming down from bantamweight to flyweight just because it's a totally different frequency, speed, you know. Everything's got to be on point. Your speed, your cardio, you've got to be able to go hard for 15 minutes or 25 minutes if you're in a main event or a title fight. And I just don't think that TJ is going to be able to go as hard as Cejudo over 25 minutes. And I definitely don't think TJ is going to be able to keep the pace that Mighty Mouse kept with Cejudo over 25 minutes. I think it'll be close, but I don't think he'll be able to do it. I genuinely don't. I'm not putting too much into the whole TJ's looking really bad on pictures, and Henry Cejudo posted a picture where he looks like a monster. You know, you can't put too much stock into that sort of stuff. But the bottom line is, yes, they're both going to be cutting a lot of weight because Henry Cejudo cuts a lot of weight, but Cejudo's used to this by now. I know he's missed weight a few times, but he's used to fighting at flyweight, where this is brand new for TJ. This is a completely, totally new experience. He's got to have a fight camp whilst cutting more weight. You know, that's going to mean more time on the running machines, less time learning techniques or honing techniques, shall we say, and working on your style. Yes, he's going to get all that in, but first and foremost, before anything, he's got to make weight to be in this fight for the title. So I just feel that all this is going to have an effect on him. I think early on, TJ's got every chance of knocking Cejudo out. We have seen Cejudo hurt against Mighty Mouse, but you know, if Cejudo gets past that, if TJ doesn't knock him out, I think Cejudo's going to win a decision because TJ could take round 1, he could take round 2. I think that I agree with you. I think TJ fades late. I can almost, whether he fades so badly and Cejudo just takes over dominantly, or whether Cejudo's just more fresher. And, you know, TJ's not looking, I don't think TJ's going to gas out so bad that he can't continue fighting. I just think Cejudo's endurance is going to be more prominent towards the latter end of the fight. I think Cejudo will win rounds 4 and 5, which means he only has to take one round out of round 1, 2, and 3, which I think he can. So then there's also the possibility that he knocks him out. He caught Mighty Mouse with a few hard shots. He knocked Wilson Hayes out. The dude's looking good in every area, and he's getting better and better each fight. I think he's going to be very hard to beat. That's what I'm going to say. I think Cejudo's going to be hard to beat. I think TJ's going to have problems in this fight late on if he doesn't get Cejudo out of there early. I don't think he gets Cejudo out of there early, so therefore I'm going Henry Cejudo to win via decision. And that's all she wrote for the fight breakdowns, guys. But we move on, and welcome to the hot topics portion. So the first thing we're going to kick this off with is surrounding the main event in the UFC Flyweight Division. I've got some thoughts and opinions myself, but John, I'll let you go first. What's your thoughts on actually what's going to happen? And, you know, there's a lot of question marks surrounding it right now.
Yeah, it's the flyweight division's in a weird place at the moment, because I mean, obviously a few weeks ago, maybe coming up to a couple of months ago now, there was when Mighty Mouse moved over to one in exchange for Ben Askren, and there was the talk that they were disbanding the flyweight division. They were getting rid of it. It was done. Then there was a bit of a backlash from the fans on social media. Some fans were for it, but the vast majority of people that I saw were not of the opinion that the UFC should get rid of the flyweight division. And we spoke about it before, that the problem is, once you get rid of it, it's almost impossible to bring back.
Bear in mind, I said this as well about an hour before it actually happened. Like, no, we're not going to get rid of the flyweight division. And then we stopped recording. We came off the podcast, and they'd fucking axed it. I was like, no way.
Absolutely crazy. And then we saw quite a number of flyweights then get released. Shorty Torres, Jared Brooks, Ulka Sasaki. These are just names I'm picking on my head, but there's quite a long list of flyweights that were released, and then again, everyone was saying, well, that's it then for the flyweight division. It's done. But as the weeks have gone on, they've continued to book flyweight bouts. Obviously, they booked the Joseph Benavidez fight. I think that was that's happening on this card. I think that was after all that was said about Mighty Mouse going to one and what was going to happen to the division, and I think there's a couple of other fights on the upcoming cards over the next few weeks and months. And I did see on social media the other day that I believe the UFC have just signed a flyweight, quite an upcoming prospect at flyweight as well. So it's a strange position, because obviously I think what happens this weekend will play a factor. If Dillashaw wins and then decides to move back up in weight, obviously that could have an impact on what's going to happen to the division. Are they just going to scrap it from there because the champion's just been beaten? Then the new champion is just moving back to his natural weight class, and he's not interested in defending the belt at 125, and it just gets wound down to nothing. But if Cejudo wins, then they're in a spot where, well, you've got a flyweight champion. What, are you just going to get rid of the division and kick the champion out, or make him move up to 135? And the more I've thought about it, the more I think that they might be using the flyweight division similarly to the way they use the female featherweight division, whereas they just have a very small, I know the women's featherweight has a very, very small pool of fighters, but
they have 6 in that division.
Yeah, that's an extremely small pool. But yeah, slightly larger than that. But whether they just keep a small pool of fighters, whereas obviously before flyweight was, although they didn't have quite the depth of your other divisions, your welterweights and your lightweights, because I think that's a more natural weight class for just people, not just fighters. But yeah, they still had some depth at flyweight, and there's regularly flyweight bouts on most cards. Whether they're just going to just basically make that division smaller and just use it quite sparingly, and just, like I say, have this pool of around 15, a top 15, and basically that's it. There's no one outside the top 15 kind of thing, and then they have a lot less flyweight bouts on the cards, but they maintain the division. That's more where my thinking has been going as to what they're going to do with it, especially if Cejudo wins this weekend. And I personally don't want them to get rid of it. I like quite a lot of the flyweights. I think there's some really fun fights at flyweight. Cejudo, like we've just mentioned, is an absolute beast, and he's an absolutely great fighter. And yeah, I think, like I say, a large part of it will depend on what happens this weekend. But yeah, I think they're going to stick around with the division, and I think they're going to use it. Well, that's just my thoughts as how they're going to use it going forward, to a lesser extent than in the past, but still keep it around for Just probably for the sake of what you mentioned before, if they get rid of it, it's so hard to bring back again. That they just want to kind of keep it around and keep it ticking over more than actively promote it, which I don't agree with, but I think that's how it's going to be used.
It's interesting, man, because I've not even contemplated that sort of scenario. So, yeah, it's cool hearing that sort of perspective. For me though, I'm just really confused because we told that they were getting axed, and they got rid of a lot of the good flyweights as well. There were some really, really good guys that they got rid of. They kept some that we all assumed were the fighters that they wanted to keep that could be well sized up at bantamweight. And then it was even like an awful scenario where for a few fight cards after that there was flyweight fights already scheduled.
Yeah.
And they were going into the fights thinking, if I lose, I'm cut. Like there's no two ways about it. It doesn't make a difference whether I'm on a win streak or not. And then at that point, we're thinking, okay, it's axed. A couple of days later, they booked the Cejudo and Dillashaw title fight at flyweight, and then we're all thinking, well, what the hell? Like, you've just axed the flyweight division, and now you're putting the flyweight title up for grabs, and it's not going to be at 135, it's at 125. So then that added a lot of confusion as well. And then, like you said, over the last few weeks, you're starting to hear, like you've said, they've signed a flyweight prospect, and I'm starting to hear a few more things about how actually the flyweight division may be okay. Some are even rumoured saying that, as you've already mentioned, it depends on the fight with Cejudo and Dillashaw. If Cejudo wins, it saves the flyweights, and if he loses, then it acts as the flyweights. But let's say Cejudo wins for the sake of argument, and the UFC reinstate the flyweight division. And then let's also say, for the sake of argument, John, you're wrong in what you said, and that they're not just having a small pool of fighters. You've just got rid of your greatest of all time flyweight to one, and you've just axed like about 10. I mean, even what you've just said, we'll keep the top 15. You just axed like 5 or 10 of those potential top 15s, and it's like, what? Like, I'm just confused because I can see them bringing the flyweight division back. I really can, but then they've just let go half of the division. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I'm really, really confused to the point of, since I've heard your opinions, I think that you might be right. But what's the point in just keeping 15 flyweights? What would be the point in that? It's like that one of the aims in a division, in a weight class in MMA, is to get through to your top 30, to your top 20, then break your top 15, then you become a ranked fight. That's your achievement. Whereas, you're in the UFC and you're a flyweight, so you're a top 15. Man, I disagree with that. I mean, I would prefer that than no flyweight division, first and foremost, because I'm a massive fan of the flyweights. You don't see a lot of the finishers that you would see at heavyweight, or the higher weights for that matter. But it's the speed and the technique, and like I've just said in the breakdown with Henry Cejudo, the fact that he can see a kick coming from Mighty Mouse enough to catch it, counter it with a 1-2, and then step out. By the time we wouldn't even see the kick at home, yet he's in the cage with the adrenaline rush, with thousands of people in an arena doing it, and it's like, man, it's so skillful. And I'm just really confused about it. I wanted to talk about it because I just wanted opinions. And listen, if you're listening to the podcast now and you've got opinions, just drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear them, what you think's going to happen. I honestly, I don't think they're going to axe it. I think the UFC are going to are backpedaling a bit with this.
Yeah.
And they've realized, they may have realized that they've made a mistake, which is fine. This is what I was saying in regards to getting rid of the flyweight. It'd be so hard to bring it back. If you are going to bring it back, you do it now. You do it a few months after you've axed it. Just making mistakes is absolutely fine. And I personally think the UFC made a mistake by axing the flyweights. And I want them back. Ring them back up. Ring the guys that are free agents or signed like a one-fight deal with another promotion. Bring them back. You're not going to get Mighty Mouse back. He's cushy now over at One with all his gaming sponsorship deals and stuff that he's got going. So I'd like to see it back, but honestly, it's just, I think it's a waiting game. I don't think anybody knows. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I say, first and foremost, I think, and you said it as well, John. I think a lot depends on what happens on Saturday night.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
Fingers crossed. Yeah,
absolutely fingers crossed, because I want to see him back. I want to see another full division of flyweights. But yeah, we'll see. And the next thing we're going to talk about is short notice replacements, because let's be honest, they happen quite a lot.
Yep.
Due to numerous things, USADA, poor weight cutting, injuries. There's loads of things. But the one thing that I really wanted to mention with this is just giving a bit of credit to the UFC, because they had UFC Brooklyn that was on Saturday, and then you have John Lineker that pulls out straight away against Cory Sandhagen. Then you have Ian Cutelaba literally about an hour after that pulling out. And then the day after, I woke up in the morning and found out that, who was it against Chance Rencountre that pulled out? It was Randy Brown.
Randy Brown, yes.
Yeah, so Randy Brown pulled out against Chance Rencountre. So that's 3 fights that you've lost in the space of 12 hours, a week before the fight card. And credit to the UFC, they fixed up straight away Bautista with Sandhagen, and then they gave Karl Roberson to Glover Teixeira, which is smart as well.
Yeah. They've
not just targeted a light heavyweight, which is quite thin anyway at the top. Let's be honest. They've gone to a decent sized middleweight that they know is gonna not have to have a weight cut, and that's the best thing for a fighter. What's better than taking a 1 week paycheck and you're not having to cut any weight? So the UFC was smart enough to go down the weight division and look for someone to come up, and then they gave Chance Rencountre Dwight Grant, and then Dwight Grant overnight couldn't get approved by the New York State Athletic Commission, so they pulled him, and now they've got Kyle Stewart in. So it's more of credit to the UFC, credit where credit's due, because every single time a fight pulls out, unless it's within 2 or 3 days of the weigh-ins, they tend to just leave it at that point. But if it's outside of 2 or 3 days, even if it's just outside, so like a week short notice, they always do a great job. Dana White, Sean Shelby, Mick Maynard, they do a great job trying to fix these fights up, because the fans don't want to pay that money and get into the arena and be sat there for 8 or 9 fights, So that's what it would be if they weren't as active looking for replacements. And I also think it's a great shout out to Dana White's Contender Series as well, and other promotions such as like LFA, for example, because these types of promotions are really helping develop fighters. And it's not a case of the UFC are the big sharks and they're stealing all the great fighters from the smaller promotions. There's a bigger picture, and it's to grow mixed martial arts as a sport. And all these smaller promotions like the LFA, they're a big promotion, but I'm saying they're small compared to the UFC. Every promotion pretty much is smaller compared to the UFC, because they are the biggest. But it all helps. Everybody helps develop the sport and grow the sport, and I think LFA helps with that. The Dana White Contender Series is a great help, because you're getting to see like 30, 40 fighters a year. Additionally, just having your eyes on them just helps the UFC think, right, I know will be good for this guy. I can remember seeing him from the content. They've seen him already in person with their own eyes in a pressure environment. I know it's not the UFC, but it's still, a pretty big pressure fight. So yeah, like I say, just credit where credit's due. The UFC do a great job with filling in short notice fighters, and I really love the Contender Series and the other promotions that help for that as well.
Definitely. I think you hit the nail on the head when we talk about this card, especially because the New York Athletic Commission have been notoriously tough and quite strict when it comes to short notice opponents in the past, and it's been quite difficult to get people to fill in on short notice because of the commission. But yeah, the UFC have had to really overcome some hurdles the last week, well, the last few days really, to fill all the voids, and they've done it, and they still managed to put on some interesting matchups as well. They're not just putting any odd lambs to the slaughter or anything like that. They're putting on competitive fights between dangerous guys. So yeah, I echo what you said. Really well done to the UFC. I think the only time that it gets a bit I don't want to say the word funny, but where we start to see issues is when you get into like the top 10 and these top 10 guys, if their opponent pulls out, if like say for example two top 10 guys are scheduled to fight and one of them has to pull out and then you get like a guy from like maybe like the LFA champ or someone that's much lower down in the rankings, and then there's nothing really the UFC can do about this, but I do think we do see some fighters think, well, it's not worth the risk. There's no benefit to me. Obviously, there's the financial implications for them, but if they're comfortable with their finances outside of the UFC and they don't need to fight, then quite a lot of the time we see that they don't risk it and the fight ends up getting scrapped completely, because why would you risk your number 7 or number 8 rank against no offense scores, but a nobody on paper to them, as they're coming from somewhere else or like I say, coming from much lower down the rankings. But again, that's like I said before, that's not the UFC's fault. They can't force them to take up that offer of fighting a lower ranked person if their originally scheduled opponent pulls out. So yeah, I think that's the only time we as fans we ever see any kind of issue. But yeah, the vast majority of the time the UFC do an excellent job, and yeah, it is thanks to things like the Dana White's Contender Series. They've always got that pool of fighters to draw from, and things like the Ultimate Fighter as well. And then they're like you say, they're close links with LFA, RFA, things like that. Titan as well. I think he's over in America. They've got a good relationship with, and Legacy and things like that. So yeah, excellent. Very well, job well done by the UFC, especially this week. They managed to keep all the fights on and keep us as fans happy.
Sure. And the final thing we're going to talk about, as always, we're just going to discuss the potential fights that could in fight of the night bonuses, performance of the night bonuses. So I'll kick this on off for the start of the year. We normally take it turns. I can't remember who went last time.
I think it was me who went last time. So yeah, I think it is your turn.
So the fight of the night, I think it's going to be the main event, Cejudo and TJ Dillashaw. And I just think that's going to be 5 rounds. I think it's going to be backwards and forwards. I think it's going to be exciting. And yeah, just a really great fight. So that's going to be my fight of the night prediction. And then my 2 performance of the night predictions, I'm going to go with Greg Hardy. I think Greg Hardy's going to knock Alan Crowder out in the first round. I think it's going to be devastating. The UFC are going to want to pay the guy and promote the fact that he's got a performance of the night. And I think the other performance of the night is going to come in the Menifield and Mamute fight, and whichever way that goes. So I think, I predicted that Mamute is going to submit him, so I think he'll grab a performance of the night with a submission there. Alternatively, Menifield could blast him into Rosehead as well, so if he does that, I think Menifield gets his performance of the night. So yes, Cejudo and Dillashaw for fight of the night, and then Greg Hardy and a performance of the night for Alonzo, Menifield or Vinicius Mamute.
Yeah, I'm usually we see the same answer so often on this, but I'm going slightly different. I'm going to go with Cejudo and Dillashaw for fight of the night, and Greg Hardy for a performance of the night bonus. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the fight that you mentioned. Either one of those guys could pick up the other bonus, but I think it'll be the top 3 of the card. I think Gregor Gillespie may get a submission finish over Medeiros. I think he might beat him up on the ground and lock on another one of those signature arm triangles and possibly pick up a performance of the night bonus for that. So just to make things a bit different, I'll go with Gregor Gillespie for my my 3rd choice.
Sure. And that's the lot for this week's podcast, guys. For the bets this week at UFC Brooklyn, don't forget to check out the premium bets from Newsome MMA and the membership options available too at newsomemma.co.uk/premium-bets. So, John, before we hit the Newsome MMA 2-minute plug, what do you need to mention, man?
Yeah, as always, check out Fight Post. I've been pretty quiet on there recently, but there's always some good stuff out there. www.fightpost.co.uk, or you can find them on Facebook, Fight Post MMA. Yeah, we'll be back on there soon, getting some articles up. So keep an eye out as always. And as I say every week, hit me up on Twitter at MMA and me. Always love talking anything MMA related with fellow fans across the world. So hit me up and give me a follow, and I'll make sure I follow back.
Awesome. Now for the quick Newsome MMA 2-minute plug. First of all, I'd like to talk about Concussion Pro 1, who are partnering Newsome MMA. Concussion Pro 1 is the world's first dedicated concussion supplement supporting brain health and performance. This product is honestly groundbreaking, and there isn't another supplement like it on the market. The unique formula that makes up Concussion Pro 1 has been developed and created by some of the world's most decorated sports scientists to help protect and support the brain and its performance. Approved by the UK Mixed Martial Arts Federation, Concussion Pro 1 provides some amazing support to the brain. It increases mental performance, faster recovery from injury, reduced inflammation post-impact, improved neural protection, and much more. With professional athletes such as Alexander Rakic, Mark Diakese, Scott Askham, Jose Shorty Torres using Concussion Pro 1, you can already see how vital this product is, not only for MMA, but for all combat sports. Find out more information by clicking on any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website, or go to concussionpro1.com. Secondly, please check out the sponsor of Newsome MMA, which is CBD Live UK. I'm a great case study for CBD. In the MMA gambling world, people often talk about sweats and nerves as they're watching the fight that they've bet on fight. These feelings are real, and because of this, I vape CBD to help relax me on fight night. If I'm honest, I didn't think it would work, but it really, really does, and I'd recommend it to anybody. You can access the offers from my sponsorship by clicking on any of the banners on the Newsome MMA website, and you can also get 15% off your first order by using promo code Newsome MMA. And that's it from us, guys. Enjoy the fights on Saturday night, and we'll see you next week.